Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys, brought to you by the National Hockey Now Network. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by National Hockey Now. Monday, May 15th, Ian Cameron and Alex B. Smith with you. Jimmy Murphy, who's usually with us on Fridays, had some conflicts, I should say, Friday arise. So he's going to join us later today on the show to break down the Stanley Cup playoffs. And I know he's got a couple rants up his sleeve, is what he told me. So looking forward to that when he joins us later today. Of course, the conference semifinals, the second round will come to a conclusion tonight with the final game of the second round, Game 7, the only Game 7 in the second round between the Seattle Kraken and the Dallas Stars. That game will be played tonight. We will break that game down from every angle. We will leave no stone unturned. We'll give you lots of potential betting options for that game, sides, totals, first periods, player props, you name it. We will talk about all of it in a little bit as far as Dallas and Seattle is concerned. Looking forward to that. As always, no two better words in sports than Game 7. Of course, the last time we were with you, it was Saturday, and we ended up seeing, of course, Saturday and Sunday games taking place. Of course, Dallas-Seattle, we'll get to that when we talk Game 7 tonight between those two teams. Last night, we said goodbye to the Edmonton Oilers as they get dispatched in 6 games by the Vegas Golden Knights. A very solid, tidy, strong road effort by the Vegas Golden Knights and a 5-2 victory in Game 6 to take that series in 6 games and advance to the Western Conference Final for, believe it or not, the 4th time in the franchise's 6 years of existence. That is unreal for a team that just entered the league 6 years ago, and here they are now. 4 out of their 6 seasons, they have made the conference finals. Very, very impressive stuff, and the Vegas Golden Knights did so once again. What a crazy, batshit wild beginning to that game last night. Obviously, 3 goals in the first 5 minutes and a 2-1 Edmonton lead. And, when they gave up that first goal to Riley Smith, my first thought was, uh-oh, that's a very bad omen to give up a goal that quickly. But sure enough, Edmonton got it right back. Connor McDavid tied it up not very long after that. And then Warren Foegele gave the Edmonton Oilers a 2-1 lead a couple minutes later. And it looked like Edmonton had regained control of the game. It got to the end of the first period, 2-1, and they were still in pretty good control of the game. And then they pretty much had the start to the second period that Toronto had in Game 2 of their series against Florida on home ice. Edmonton didn't look right coming out of the gate in the second period. Vegas was controlling the play, and Vegas was having several good shifts in the offensive zone. They weren't really giving up much at the defensive end to the Edmonton Oilers. It was definitely Vegas carrying the play at 5-on-5 even strength to begin that second period, which is basically a microcosm of the whole series. We know Vegas was the better team at 5-on-5 even strength throughout that series, and it played out. It's, last night I read a stat that going into last night's game, I believe the even strength 5-on-5 goals were 13-7 in this series in favor of Vegas. So that just tells you how much damage overall in this series offensively Edmonton did on the power play as opposed to even strength. Sure enough, Vegas played a disciplined game. They weren't in the box very much, and that gives you a puncher's chance every time to beat the Edmonton Oilers, and they were just working away. They had some good forechecking shifts. Marchessault, what an unbelievable second period for him. The natural hat trick. He got it started with the game-tying goal to make it 2-2, and the next thing you know, it ends up 4-2 Vegas by the time the second period ends, and at that point, with the way Vegas can play good team defense and structure, and with multiple cup winners leading the way on that back end, including Alex Pietrangelo, including Alec Martinez, Shea Theodore, who's one of the better underrated, not talked about enough defensemen in the league. Zach Whitecloud has developed incredibly strong. Braden McNabb's a good playoff defenseman, a warrior, physical, knows how to shut things down in the defensive zone. You knew that even for a team with the firepower like Edmonton has, good luck trying to battle back against this team. And sure enough, that's what happened. Vegas, I can't say enough And you guys can hit on it too when you mention last night's game. But I can't say enough how incredibly good Vegas defensively was in the third period. It was a clinic. It was a complete shutdown of the Edmonton Oilers. And Bruce Cassidy, man, I mean, what a job. And I love Jay Woodcroft, and he's still a good coach, and he will continue to be a very good coach. But Cassidy got the better of him, especially in the latter few games of this series. What I noticed with Vegas's defensive coverage is earlier in the series, they were paying almost equal attention to the points along the blue line and the front of the net. Cassidy, I think the last couple of games said, you know what, Edmonton, if we take away the crease area, we let them have their initial shot, box out, have their initial shot, and we take away the crease area and those rebounds right in front of the net, we're going to do an even better job defending this Edmonton team. And so it was like a wall they built around Adin Hill, in the last few games of that series. And Edmonton just couldn't get to the blue paint. They couldn't get to the crease. They couldn't get to those loose pucks. And Vegas played just an impeccable defensive game, just clearing out the front of the net. There were never any second or third chances for the Edmonton Oilers right in front of Adin Hill, especially last night in that third period. It was just an incredible effort by Vegas. And the few times there was a breakdown in that third period, and there were a couple times, not many, but there were a couple. Man, Adin Hill came up large with a couple of incredible saves, including one on Ekholm midway through that third period, which is just incredible. Just dove. He just basically launched himself forward and somehow got a piece of the puck. It was just a phenomenal stop. It was an incredible effort. Goaltender out by the Vegas Golden Knights in the third period. That's how you play. Closeout game on the road against an excellent opponent. That is about a Picasso or a Rembrandt or a masterpiece or whatever words you want to use that the Vegas Golden Knights put on last night. They were the better team at 5-on-5 even strength. It was just too much power play and only power play production for Edmonton in that series. And give Vegas credit for shutting down the big German, Leon Draisaitl, who, 6 goals in the first 2 games? Nothing after that. It was really stunning. 3, 4, 5, and 6, not a single goal for Leon Draisaitl in this series. And you got to give Vegas's blue line a lot of credit for that as well. Just a great effort, great coaching again by Bruce Cassidy, who's on to the conference finals. Vegas, a terrific job, and full marks for them winning this series. If you're Edmonton, I don't want to hear your beefs. I don't want to hear about how Pietrangelo should have been suspended more than 1 game, which I'm hearing from some people on Twitter. I don't want to hear about how the refs missed and that was a bad miss on Ekholm, when he was bleeding there late in the third. But do you really think you lost the series just because of that one missed call? Come on, get real. I mean, you were outplayed at even strength. You were outplayed at 5-on-5. Get a clue. The missed call on Ekholm when you're already down 4-2 with 5 minutes to go in the third period is not why you lost the damn series. Get your heads out of your asses. If you buy into that narrative, shame on you. You were outplayed in this series at 5-on-5 even strength. Vegas was the better squad, particularly in that department. And their goaltender was better than yours. Stuart Skinner, I'll say this about him. It was a bit Kelly Rudy nailed this completely on the broadcast. He said, it's one thing to pull Skinner once, twice. When you start to pull a goalie 3 times, especially in one series, it gets into their heads a little bit. And maybe it did last night with Stuart Skinner, who, again, Adin Hill was the better goalie. And, Kelly Rudy said maybe last night was the night you should have went to Jack Campbell starting that game, who has actually played very well in the games where he's pulled relief duty here for Edmonton in these playoffs. But too little, too late now. Look, would they have won the game if Campbell starts? I'm not sure about that. They still might have lost, to be quite honest. But it's a decision that could have been made and wasn't made. And it looked to me, just watching, Stuart Skinner's never played this much hockey, especially at the NHL level. I mean, it's just amazing the number of games he's played. He's gone all the way to the second round of the playoffs. This is a big ask for who's a very young goalie. He's an NHL rookie. I think people forget that. He's an NHL rookie. This is a lot to put on his plate. And I think he just hit a mental wall, and I think he hit a physical wall in the last couple games of this series. That's what it looked like to me, watching Stuart Skinner play. But credit to Vegas. They're on to the Western Conference Finals, Alex. A great job by the Golden Knights.
Absolutely. Just a terrific job by the Golden Knights. And, you know, in this age of snap reactions and extremism, everybody wants to jump to, conclusions that, well, our team lost because of X, Y, and Z. No, why can't it just be that one team beat the other in a series and both teams played great hockey and the better team won? Like, that's literally what happened in the series, right? Like, as great as Edmonton was, and we've talked about the vaunted power play and all these different things, they still had issues getting over the hump. We're not talking about a team that's won a Stanley Cup. We're not talking about a team that's been in a cup final, in the last, 10 years with this big core of McDavid and Draisaitl. They still had their issues. And we said it the entire time, the biggest thing that's probably going to be the collapse and downfall of the Oilers will be their goaltending. And it's not for the sake of because they both were playing like crap. No, Stuart Skinner did a wonderful job. He was thrown into a situation where he was probably only supposed to play about 25 games this season, ends up being the starter to carry them into the playoffs. Takes up the bulk of the work in the postseason. You can't ask him to do anything more than he did. So you can't blame him for anything. Jack Campbell, he just kind of is what he is. He's he's up and down. You don't know what you're going to get from him until he's in the crease. That's we knew that going into the series. We knew that going in when you had to put him in at any point in the series. So the better team simply won. And it's unfortunate. I had a Leon Draisaitl Conn Smythe ticket that pretty much went up in flames. Even if Edmonton had won Game 6 and Game 7, there's no way in hell.
Preaching to the choir. My Oilers' futures are dead now.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And So, and that's the thing. So, it's just the better team won, and a full unit like Vegas, like you said, scoring 5-on-5, getting timely defense, getting great goaltending from Aiden Hill. And it's funny, I was joking. Doing edge work earlier today, and I said, wow, what are the odds that of this team in 6 years, the two most successful seasons at this point, they've played 5-6 goalies throughout the year and had to rotate, and there's been a carousel of goaltenders where most teams have their one or two and then still struggle and can't find ways to advance during the season and into the playoffs. So kudos to the goaltending system. Really, honestly, the coaching system down in Henderson, and Fred Brathwaite's the assistant coach down there. He was a great pro goalie for many years, and they've got the goalie coaches up with Vegas as well. They are doing something right because they're able to get these guys, no matter what they're on in the depth chart at the beginning of the year. They're finding ways to be able to step up to the moment. You don't have a lot of next man up mentality in the world of goaltending in hockey, but Vegas has found that on two different occasions, and they have it right now. And, Aiden Hill, if he doesn't stay in Vegas, man, would I love to see him here in Chicago. But he's going to get a lot of calls this summer if he does not stay with the Golden Knights. But the way he's playing right now, it'd be, wouldn't make sense for him to leave at this point. You think they would throw the bag at him, honestly.
Yeah, true. Unbelievable that he gives up the first two shots he faces last night. First two shots against him went in. And you think maybe, oh my gosh, is he rattled? Is he going to get pulled in another minute or two? You wonder once Edmonton got it to 2-1 in the first few minutes of that game. And sure enough, he turns aside the next 39 shots, 39 for 39.
Resiliency.
It's just an incredible performance by Aiden Hill. And I know one proud papa of Aiden Hill who you had a nice chat with in Minnesota a few months back. I'm sure was very happy. Proud father last night watching Aiden Hill get that job done.
Absolutely, as he should be. And like I said, that resiliency, that we didn't see that Aiden Hill those years in Arizona and San Jose. And granted, those are bad teams, right? Yeah. But, we talk about and I'm sure if Pearl is watching in the chat, about Karel Vejmelka, for example, how he might be a better goalie once he leaves Arizona. That's something that we really have to kind of look at now with some of these Arizona goaltenders, all right? We've seen these guys leave and now play a little bit better over the last couple of years. And like I said, but it's also what system you go into as well. And I think we don't look at this deep enough. We talk about it with head coaching, right? We don't look at this a little bit deeper. And this is something I might spend a little time this summer doing, is looking at goaltending coaches and their philosophies and seeing if the goaltenders they have in their stable actually fit the philosophies that they're trying to preach, because that's not always the case. We've seen teams shuffle out goaltenders and all of a sudden they go on and have great careers. You really think back to even like the Blackhawks in the 90s. Think about all the great goaltending they had and how, Dominik Hasek just happened to be one of the best goaltenders of all time. Eddie Belfour, already a stud, ended up, being a Hall of Fame caliber goaltender. Sometimes some goaltenders just simply don't work with teams because of the style they play or even the coaching that they have behind them. It's something to look into a little bit more, and it's something that I think we have to really kind of use more often when assessing these goaltenders, because Aiden Hill has definitely found a new level. I don't know if he's a top 15, top 20 goaltender just yet, but he has improved far more this season than what I've seen from him his entire career. So kudos to him.
Yeah, you know what's amazing too is we talk about in football, right? The quarterback whisperer, coaches that can work so well with quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Andy Reid, Belichick, all those years with Brady, but guys that just have a great way of developing quarterbacks and getting the best out of them. We talk about that in baseball, the pitching coaches, the great pitching coaches that get the absolute best out of their pitchers and make pitchers that maybe have marginal talent or lesser talent or ability, and they overachieve, they exceed that ability and talent, or they maybe get better in that ability department. And it's simply because they work with great coaches around them to become better players, better pitchers, better quarterbacks. For the Vegas Golden Knights, their goalie whisperer is Sean Burke. He's done just a remarkable job with this group. I can't say it enough. I mean, that's unbelievable. 5 different goalies this year for the Vegas Golden Knights. Logan Thompson, Aiden Hill, Laurent Brossoit, Jonathan Quick. Don't forget Yuri Patera, who got in there for a few starts as well. 5 different goalies have started games this year for the Vegas Golden Knights. And it is a parallel to their inaugural season when they went to the Stanley Cup final. I know they lost to Washington, but they got to the Stanley Cup final. Marc-Andre Fleury, Maxime Lagacé, Malcolm Subban, the safety dance. You can dance. Everybody look at your hands. Oscar Dansk. Remember him? He started a few games for Vegas that year. Dylan Ferguson. So 5 goalies started for Vegas in their inaugural season as well. Those were the 5. They got to the Cup final. 5 different goalies this year, and they've all come in and they've all played well, and they've all at least given their team a chance to win on a nightly basis. Sean Burke, folks, nobody mentions him. Nobody. He deserves a hell of a lot of credit. That's one hell of a goalie coach they've got right there with the Vegas Golden Knights right now to pull this off and have all these goalies step in and do the job. He's their goalie whisperer. Make no mistake about it. Our NHL insider / reporter / news breaking news whisperer, if you will, is Jimmy Murphy. And he's joining us here on the Ice Guys show after missing us on Friday. He's in it with us today. And I know Jimmy's fired up. I teased it before. He joined us just now. Got some rants up his sleeve here on this show today. So, Jimmy, first of all, Vegas advancing past Edmonton. A great job for the Golden Knights.
Yeah, once.
You're muted.
I'm getting an important text here for a sec, guys, just concerning something with the Bruins.
Yeah, and just to go back quickly. Well, Jimmy, are you good now? Or? Okay. Well, why you waiting? So just going back to Jimmy, or
some breaking news might be happening right now.
It might be. So going back with Sean Burke, though, like you said, with having that kind of a guy, and he was a very fiery, combative goaltender, right, in his own style. But that's not necessarily what we're seeing from the goaltending necessarily that they have currently, right? They're aggressive and attacking and making saves, making themselves big. We're talking about larger goalies. He was a larger goalie. So those comparisons you can just kind of on the surface see. But like I said, it's the deeper inner workings of knowing, a guy's rhythm, knowing how many games, knowing what kind of pace, is he a guy that can go long term? Are these 1A, 1B guys? Having that kind of management, I think that's crucial, and that's something that, like I said, it really needs to be looked into. Who knows if Burke maybe gets a look somewhere else as an assistant because of this job that he's done, and it's like I said, something that is really key. Obviously, being focused on solely the goaltending is the utmost important thing, but having that possible kind of wisdom. If you pair him with another goaltending coach and you can have him as an assistant, that could be a really big boost as well, possibly. So there's a lot of openings and opportunities for Vegas, depending on what happens here, even if they don't win the cup or reach the cup final.
Yeah, exactly. And like I say, they've what I love about Vegas too is the thing too with their goaltending doesn't need to be spectacular. It just needs to be good. It can't give up the bad goal. It can't give up the soft goal. It can't give up the back-breaking goal. And, Aiden Hill and the Brossoit, before he got injured, they really didn't do that for Vegas. And everything else will take care of itself. The 4 lines of depth, which they have in spades, they have it, and of course the blue line 1 through 6 is extremely deep. So they just need the goalies to be solid, and they're another team. Why not them win the Stanley Cup? Why not with the way they're built? And the way they're coached, of course, by the former Bruins head coach, now Golden Knights head coach, Bruce Cassidy. Jimmy, how's that text line? Is it blowing up?
Yeah, well, I mean, just something going on. I've written a little story earlier this week because I've been tipped off that goaltending coach Bob Essenza here with the Bruins could be in trouble. Amazing. I don't know how that's possible. If you go look at his resume and what he's done in his 20 years as a goaltending coach here, it's insane. So, you know, it's kind of coincidental. You were talking about Sean Burke at the same time I'm getting those texts. And he's done an amazing job. I agree with you with the goalies there in Vegas. But, you know, just on this, I really hope it seems like it's a legit thing that could happen. I really hope it doesn't because, you know, I think it's unfair. The Bruins are clearly looking for a scapegoat right now. So if they were to do this, that's exactly what this is. And it's sad that they're going to do that to somebody who's been so loyal to them and done so much for them. I hope they don't do that. Yeah. And to be honest, quite frankly, and you can intertwine it again with the Knights here. I think the wrong coach is in Boston and the right one's in Vegas. You know, and I said this when it happened, and I'm not going to be a jerk and say I told you so, but I guess I am. I'm a jerk.
I know we have footage. I know
this
year's your first year. You weren't with us every day. You were only on every week. But I know last year in the free agency show, I think you were on with us. You said right then when Bruce had gotten fired, mistake. He's going to be good wherever he goes. And I think he'd already been hired by Vegas at that time. It was like 24 hours later, and Vegas is already calling him up for the job. And you said, watch him in Vegas now. It'll be great there. It's a great fit. And look at now, Western Final.
Well, this is a proof that you can't always let the players dictate what your team does as an organization. You can't. There has to be a chain of command. I'm sorry. I know we're in a new era right now. I don't mean to be the old man yelling at the clouds right now. But the truth is, you need a chain of command. That's why you have a coach. That's why you have a GM. That's why you have an owner. That's just how it is, and it's always going to be that way. And it's, you know, it's too much of the inmates running the asylum right now. Look, I love that core in Boston. Those are great guys. I've had the pleasure of covering them. I think there's a lot of future Hall of Famers there. Marchand, Bergeron, you know, Krejci, I don't know Hall of Fame, but he's going to be in a Bruins Hall of Fame, that's for sure. You know, these are great guys. They've accomplished a lot. It's not a knock in them, but maybe that was the change this team needed. You know, and I said this last week. I said, everybody's like, well, is Bergeron going to come back? And they afford him. Like, well, do they want him? Do they want Krejci back? I mean, when you look at it right now, they didn't get it done. They were all in. They didn't get it done. At what point do you rock the boat and change things around on the player level and start to move forward from the last decade? You know, it's just part of life. There's cycles. This cycle appears to be done, but I don't think the Bruins are ready to admit that. So it's interesting just to watch Bruce Cassidy now do what he's doing in Vegas. And I think that the way that the Bruins played in that series against Florida and some of the mental mistakes they had and some of the lackadaisical play they had, I don't think that would have happened under Cassidy. You know, but you know, hindsight's 2020, guys. You know, it is what it is.
Yeah, and you know what, and I agree with it too. Like I said at the time, I was right there along with you. I thought, you know, firing Cassidy was a strange move. I thought bringing in Montgomery was a questionable move because we just didn't know what we were going to expect from him. Obviously, with the exit, and even not even just throw the Dallas exit out of the way. Just okay, he was an assistant in St. Louis, but St. Louis wasn't great. You know, they were still running off the end of the fumes from the Cup run. So, you know, we thought that was just kind of two questionable moves for different reasons. Why would you fire Cassidy? Is Montgomery really ready to be back in the head spot? I don't know if Boston has the great regular season run they have with Cassidy. I think they needed a new, fresh voice in the room early.
I'm with you on that.
And so that's the catch-22 of it. It's like, yeah, they could have used Cassidy late, but you can't trade coaches. So,
but,
you know what I mean?
They get in as an 8th seed. Look what Florida's doing. You know, I mean, it comes to the thing, like, what do you value more? Do you value that amazing regular season? Because I'm telling you, the players don't. And Don Sweeney said it flat out last week, a week ago tomorrow. He said flat out, no, that doesn't matter. And it's too bad. It's going to get lost in the loss here in the playoffs. And I just see them as being more of a Florida type team if they had kept Cassidy. This team that, they had a roller coaster season, but they find their groove at the right time. He's already gotten them to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final before. Maybe the stale voice in the locker room wasn't the coach. Maybe it was the players is what I'm trying to get at. Maybe that voice is stale and that needs to be changed.
Exactly. And that's to your point that, hey, it's time maybe to not blow this thing up totally. And I don't think that will happen, but shake it up, you know, and Toronto's now faced with that same, conundrum now. Shake it up, not blow it up, shake it up. You got to have some change, some kind of change going into next season. You just can't run back this whole group top to bottom. There's
Every
got to
year.
be some. Yeah.
I mean, what's the definition of insanity, right? You just keep doing the same thing over and over.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That's right.
I mean, that's what's going on. And, but with Vegas, great job by them. I thought, I had a feeling that it was going to be a game 7, but I was wrong. Vegas, really, I thought their game plan that they had put in place by Cassidy, they did a good job of not veering away from it. Even when things weren't going well, they stuck to their plan. They kept their structure. And that's a legit Stanley Cup contender right now. Why not them? You're right, Ian. And the same goes with the Panthers too. I mean, why not them? And why not the team?
I'd say why not anybody that's still standing?
Yeah, why not anybody?
I can make a case anyone still standing can win it.
This is the craziest playoff I've ever seen in my life. It's it's been insane.
It's going to be the Sun Belt Stanley Cup Final Four if Dallas advances tonight, and we will get to that, of course, momentarily. Or if Seattle advances.
Well, to say if Seattle advances, you have the 2 expansion teams from the last few years. Hockey purists are already pissed off. Okay, Edmonton and Toronto are gone, and now it's either teams in sunny states or expansion teams that are playing for the cup. Yeah, they've all killed over in their chairs. And
it's true. Yeah. It's funny to watch. Look, I mean, I'm kind of a hockey traditionalist at heart, but at the same time, we evolve. Things go on. We got to move on. And these teams are part of the league now, and they're proving that it's not just some joke when they get in here. It's fun that now that they have expansion teams that can come in and be competitive. And you look at that Seattle team right now, and I think one of you were saying it, that Seattle team, to me, is almost identical in terms of style of play and in terms of how they're winning to the 2018 Vegas team. Mm-hmm. There were no real big superstars on that team besides the goalie, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember. I don't think there was. But I mean, now Vegas has quite a bit of superstars on their team. But that was just a sum of the parts team, and that's what Seattle is.
That's a great point. This is literally almost identical because you had the growing stars now. They were young then, building, the emergence of Wild Bill Carlson. That was 2018. And now he's kind of tailed off a bit, but he's, still an elite level player. All these guys that are doing things for Vegas now, they were there then as young players with, core veterans that were brought in from the expansion draft. It's pretty much the kind of in lockstep. And it feels more realistic, I guess, because they lost last year. It wasn't just this, crazy run, and all of a sudden you won there in the cup final. So it kind of, I think we have more time to absorb it now and see that, wow, they've really got something they can build upon here.
Yeah, and they didn't get the sweetheart trade deals that Vegas got. Remember when, what were they doing? I forget. They had some kind of loophole or something they were doing to work GMs into trades they wouldn't necessarily make to help them in the expansion draft. Do you remember that?
Right. And then they were flipping guys who they had to leave exposed, but they didn't want to Vegas necessarily. Yeah. There was a lot of weirdness to that.
Yeah, they did away with that.
No, it was. It's been just remarkable to see Vegas have this run. And you know what's funny? Getting back to the Bruins just a little bit, I saw a very fascinating opinion piece. I forget who wrote it, but about Boston, and said, I think there's some truth to it, and I think there's a good part of it I agree with. This season for Boston, it got off to that great start, incredible start, all the injuries to start the year, and they still won games, and they still had that blazing hot start in October, and they just rode it through the rest of the regular season. It was just an outstanding, historic regular season, but they were riding the high off the new voice, Jim Montgomery, who compared to Bruce Cassidy is kind of Mr. Nice Guy, players coach, everything's all cotton candy and rainbows and sunshine and lollipops in the dressing room with Jim Montgomery there. And all the sugary sweet honeymoon was basically the proponent, the engine, if you will, for the great regular season that the Boston Bruins had. But when it came time to the playoffs and it was time to coach harder, play harder, and elevate yourself as a team and elevate yourself as a head coach and a coaching staff, couldn't get the job done. And that sugary sweet, honeymoon, everything's great. We love this guy. He loves us. We love him, and in comparison to the end of Cassidy's era. I mean, I'm sure at the beginning of the Cassidy era, it was going great, but at the end of it, you could tell the voice was getting,
it was.
Stale.
I'm not arguing that,
But I mean, to me, there's some truth to that, hey, once the honeymoon wore off between Montgomery and the players from this great regular season, and it came time to coach hard, coach well, play hard, play well, play with discipline, play mistake-free, coach mistake-free in that playoff series. It's everything he said in this piece, this guy, they couldn't do it. And there's definitely some truth to that to me.
Yeah, and guys, you look at it, I mean, I think the biggest thing that scares me if they don't make what would be a pretty monumental change in the dynamic of this team if they don't move on from these guys. I don't know how Montgomery has a voice that they're going to listen to in that draft. They listen to Bergeron. They listen to Krejci. It's a player's dressing room. And look, yeah, it worked. It got you the best regular season ever. But when it came down to it, when you actually really needed a coach coaching and not a player, when you needed a coach to clearly pull a goalie that was not himself, that, was taking 5 minutes to get up off the ice every time he went down, that was clearly hurt, whether they want to say it or not, and that was really hurt. And I don't like how they tried to downplay Kevin Leake's report. He's bang on. It's clearly something that was chronic. And then to not be able to say no to, and look, I wanted Patrice Bergeron in the lineup. I was wrong. I'm admitting that right now. But I'm also going to say that Jim Montgomery was wrong to put him back in. That team was rolling at that time, man. And sometimes, what was the old Patrick Ewing effect from way back? I mean, sometimes when you get the star player back, the guys that were raising above their levels to compensate for him being out fall flat. And boom, that's exactly what happened.
Not to mention Bergeron and Krejci, the two old centers in their late 30s. Not only did they come back, they were less than 100%. There's no way they were 100%. And that was another big problem. And it's something Pierre Maguire hit on when he was talking about the end of that series, that they're all older centers down the 1, 2, 3, 4 spots. And you got this Florida team that's a little bit younger, average age, physical, big, leaning on this group when two of your centers aren't even 100% health-wise. That's a problem. That's a big problem. And we saw it play out that way.
But I got to get to what happened last night, Ian. I got to get this off.
Jimmy, by the way, we're all ticked off. We're all beside ourselves that ESPN went down this path as far as last night's game. Let me set the table. First of all, obviously everyone knows the game started at 10 p.m. Eastern time last night. With it, despite the fact it was the only Stanley Cup playoff game on the schedule on Sunday, couldn't make it 8 p.m. Eastern or 9 p.m. Eastern, make it a little easier for the East Coast people. I said on Twitter all along, at the very least, 9 p.m. Eastern would have been a nice compromise, where it's not, afternoon on the West Coast. It's, 6 p.m. local, still good there. And 9 p.m. Eastern, you could get the game done by 11:30 or so, and it's not that bad. But 10 p.m. Eastern time on the East Coast, when you got Connor McDavid involved, the best player in the world, the best player in the league, and then the fucking circus behind the scenes that multiple people have confirmed it. I read it from some media guy that just does media articles. And then Dan Kingerski from Pittsburgh Hockey Now followed up on it and said the same thing, that what I said is that the NHL said, hold on now. Okay, this is the only game tonight. Can we not start it at 10 p.m. Eastern time? Is there some way we can get this game away from 10? Can we put it at 8 p.m. Eastern? And ESPN said, no, we won't do that. The only way we would do that is we have to put the hockey on ESPN2 if it's going to be at 8 p.m. because we're contracted, to do Sunday night baseball and to do it on the main network, ESPN, every Sunday during the baseball season. We can't move out of that, apparently, is what ESPN told the NHL. So we can put it at 8 p.m. Eastern, but we have to move it to ESPN2, the playoff game, Edmonton-Vegas, if that's the case. Well, NHL came back and said, well, wait a minute, no. We want it on the main network. We want it on ESPN, not ESPN2. And there was a refusal for ESPN to put the game on ESPN, and there was a refusal for the NHL to allow it to be on ESPN2 at the 8 p.m. Eastern hour. So then the NHL suggests ESPN, trade games with Turner, with TNT. Give the game to Turner, and Turner will give you a game. Tonight's game, for example, Seattle-Dallas. And ESPN said, absolutely not. We negotiated in good faith for this to be our game, Game 6, Edmonton-Vegas. It's our game. We're keeping it on our network. And so it ended up being a stalemate. They wouldn't move it to ESPN. They wouldn't move the baseball to ESPN2. NHL didn't want the hockey on ESPN2. ESPN wouldn't trade the Edmonton-Vegas Game 6 to TNT for something else. And so they ended up stuck, at 10 p.m. Eastern time, showing the game on ESPN, the main network. That was the final decision. It came down. And that's why there was such a delay for it to be announced, the start time, because they were going back and forth and just going around and around in circles like chickens with their heads cut off, the ESPN folks and the NHL. and they couldn't come to an agreement. That's why it took so damn long to hear that it was going to be 10 p.m. that game last night. And then to make matters worse, it's a fucking 9-1 baseball game in the bottom of the 9th inning. The game's over. People even in Boston, I'm sure, or St. Louis, the Cardinal fans probably turned that game off, at 9-1 bottom of the 9th. We're going to win this game. It's late. And here's ESPN rolling out that if you want to watch the start of Game 6, Vegas and Edmonton, this is in a 9-1 baseball game in the bottom of the 9th, a regular season game in mid-May that goes until the end of September, and we're going to put the hockey, a Game 6 elimination playoff game in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So we're going to start it on ESPN2. The disrespect, it shined through. It shined through. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. Even though ESPN's a partner again, it's almost like they feel that the NHL needs ESPN more than we need the NHL. We'll treat you like shit. We'll urinate on your product, and we won't think twice about doing so. And that was the ultimate urination in the National Hockey League by the folks at ESPN last night. Yeah. You couldn't even watch the first 3 goals if you tuned into ESPN.
And then as people got into it, they switched to the X Games.
Yep. Just absolutely disgraceful. Good on Troy Stetcher, a longtime NHL defenseman, putting a tweet out there. Bravo, ESPN. You put the start of a Game 6 elimination game on ESPN2 in favor of a 9-1 MLB blowout in the middle of May. Just one of 162 in a long, tedious MLB regular season. Just absolutely horrendous. Just awful, the treatment that the NHL and the sport of hockey got from ESPN last night. And I know, Jimmy, you're going to hit on that right now.
Yeah, you hit on everything you just said there. I agree 100%, guys. And I'm just baffled. Like, at what point does the NHL, I would go after them almost, because they're talking about, we signed a deal in good faith. You're not being good faith at all. You're not in good faith at all right now. If you seriously, when you signed it, you believed in everything you said, we're here to promote the game again, and we love the NHL and we're embracing it. Is good faith treating them like that? You're not promoting the game. You're hurting the game. You had the ultimate opportunity to promote the game with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and the Edmonton Oilers. And you had an awesome opportunity to promote it. Mother's Day, people are around the dinner table. They're around the TV. And I'm speechless almost, Ian. I had all those things I wanted to say, but now the more I think about it, I'm just like, I don't get it. It makes no sense. You just failed on an epic proportion. And I'm telling you, I'm talking to people that work on the NHL department and ESPN, announcers. I won't name their names, but I've spoken to at least 5 of them who are embarrassed, absolutely embarrassed, and think it's pathetic what their bosses did. So your own employees right now even think you're a joke with the way you handled this last night. Wake up, and the NHL, wake up and do something about this, because this can't happen again.
Yeah. Yeah, no, very well said. And literally, it's bait and switch. Like, this is technically borderline illegal within the realms of business. You basically said you're going to put a game or a product on a network at a certain time, and then you switched off of it and put it on ESPN2, the network that you really didn't want to, put it on anyway in the first place. Instead, you decided to show a 1-hour special about the college softball World Series and the X Games, and
nearly half the goals in last night's game were scored on ESPN2. Yeah,
a rerun of the 1972 Dolphins on a fucking 30 for 30. Like that's what's more important than a Game 7 in the playoffs in the NHL. Like that, it's insane. Wait, Jimmy, you're muted.
Jimmy. We'll have to do sign language. Jimmy, you're muted here. Can he hear us? Jimmy, you're muted here.
Sorry, guys. I was saying it became like an avalanche, guys. It was like a giant snowball, just, like building up speed and building up size, rolling down the mountain, from the choice of shows they put on to all the goals that happened in the first minute. It was like, oh, man. This is really embarrassing.
You see what happened as soon as we started talking shit about ESPN? Jimmy was muted forever. I just got knocked off of my stream. So you gotta be careful. But
no, I feel bad for. I feel bad. There's some really good on-air talent there at ESPN. There's some good analysts too. I like Boucher. I like Ferraro, McDonough, and Wischusen. Their top 2 play-by-play guys, I think, are very good. Both of them. And I can't imagine any of them are excited about it. I think even if McDonough's kind of a baseball guy, I don't even think he'd probably be liking what they've been doing here with the
even
hockey
people in
last night.
Boston. My buddy was at the Sox game, and he left the game early, and he's like, "Hey, I'm in a bar. Why can't they find the hockey game? Where is it?"
Yeah. Now, some people are saying it's not a big deal. Everyone gets ESPN. Does everyone get ESPN too? I've heard for years there's still people that
no,
don't
here
get
in the
ESPN.
States, everybody, if you get ESPN, you get ESPN2. It's on basic cable. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
So they're always connected. Unless you're here for some reason, they're literally like one channel over. Like I don't know why that's the case. Not the case here.
Well, they have like
Chicago
I
anymore.
think with the satellite channels, they're far apart.
Okay.
I don't know, but anyhow, and here's a funny one. My boss, Dan Kingerski, he was in a casino in a sports book, and they couldn't even get the game on there at first.
No,
It's just a joke.
Yeah.
Like, you're a sports book. Oh, you're really into gambling, and you're promoting all these sports books, and not even the sports books could have the game on for a few minutes. Like this.
Yeah.
I'll save this, Ian and Jimmy. You can jump on too at some point for a Patreon down the line. But I'll have to share my experience yesterday of going to the Horseshoe Sportsbook in Hammond, Indiana. Yeah, not all sports books are running up and up the way you think it is. It ain't Vegas everywhere nowadays.
No.
So with that being said, there's a lot that some places need to get on the ball with.
Same around here, guys.
Yeah,
same around here. It's the MGM in Springfield. They don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like, you're just better off doing stuff on the app.
No. You know what? The ESPN coverage could be great, but you know what? The suits and the big wigs at ESPN won't allow it to be great, and they'll just allow it to be a joke. Unfortunately, at times, and last night was one of those nights when it was a joke. What ended up happening? There's no question about that. You want to know the NHL, which good faith television partner they have right now? Turner Sports. That's who's a good faith television partner. I think TNT's been sensational from the very beginning. Everything they've done, their production, their product, they give you like a 30 to 45 minute post-game show when their coverage ends. ESPN, they rush right off the air. Oh, basically the horn sounds, final score 3-2. Stay tuned, Sports Center coming right up. Off the air right away. No post-game.
Where are all half of those Turner guys from, though, Ian? Where do a lot of those Turner guys carry over from? NBC.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
The NHL, I'm sorry, I agree with you. I like Turner. I got nothing against TNT, but I'll take NBC in a heartbeat back right now. I'm sorry. The NHL really screwed them over with the way things, from what I hear, it was the NHL and not NBC. NBC wanted it back. Yep. And this was a station, a network, a hockey programming or broadcast, whatever you want to call it. This, they helped put the NHL back on the map in the United States when the game came back from the lockout, when they were down and out. They helped them, and they had a great production crew. They had good talent, and I know not everyone likes Pierre Maguire. He's not your cup of tea, but I'd take him over 75% of people doing his role right now. Sorry.
Yep.
I just would. And he knows the game a lot better, and he's way more connected. And it's just, I don't know. If there was a way they could have done NBC and TNT, I'd be happy. That's where I'd like it. But I mean, I'll take NBC any day over ESPN.
Yeah, if you would have a show of hands that would go up so fast it could probably lift off a fucking roof. If you said Pierre Maguire or Leah Hextall, and everybody would probably go Pierre Maguire. So
no, there's no doubt. Like I say, TNT has done well though. I like everything they've done there. They give you like like I say, not only a 30-minute post game, a great 30-minute post game. Sometimes it even goes longer, 45 minutes after the game's end. Every night during the playoffs, there's a TNT post game when they've got the games. That's given the NHL some respect. Yeah. That's like given CBC, them the coverage they deserve.
Yeah, they're doing it like they do in Canada, which is great.
Not rushing off the air. 1 minute after the game ends. Sports Center with SVP or whoever.
We got to get to this pickleball final in Omaha right now. Sorry, we're gonna have to cut away from Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. Have a good night.
ESPN joke as its own network has been a joke for years. Like I don't even understand what the fuck that's about now at this point. It's a spillover for everything else. It's just like, oh, we don't have enough airspace on ESPN. Just put it on ESPN2. Like it's not even its own network anymore. Crazy.
That was a very disappointing, disheartening night especially for American sports fans, especially the American sports fans that love hockey. They're hardcore about it. They love it. They got the passion for it. They've got to put up with this stunt, this bullshit that went down last night with the start of Game 6 with Vegas and Edmonton on ESPN. No one should have to put up with that.
And bring it back to the betting, right? So like I said, I go to Mother's Day, me and my mom go to the casino. I have 3 paper tickets, right? Like I bet more on my phone, but I have, I wanted to paper tickets. So my mom's watching the games, and we already hit 2-0, and we can't find that's on ESPN2. We turned into it. It's 2-1 already. We go, oh, already hit the first period over 2. Didn't get to see any of it because of that whole thing. So yeah, so if you're trying to grow the game on any level, just from a fan standpoint or a betting standpoint, yeah, I could have easily probably made some more money hitting next to score props if I had been watching the first 5 minutes, but had to flip around to look for it. So crazy.
Yeah, just a travesty of what ended up happening last night. We can only hope that Seattle versus Dallas, Game 7 tonight, will start on time on ESPN here tonight, as they do have the rights for this game. But I don't think they'll have an issue tonight from all indications. Speaking of Game 7, Seattle, Dallas, that is what we will be talking about in just a moment. Shout out to everyone, 145 live viewers on YouTube. Hit the like button. We appreciate it.
I love the
mime
comments about me. Well played.
There you go. It is. I mean, just unfortunate turn of events last night, but hopefully a great Game 7 on tap. We will preview it, sides, totals, first period bets, player props, you name it. We'll hit everything Game 7, Seattle, Dallas, coming up in just a moment, right after we hear from Gramco.
Support for the Ice Guys is brought to you by Gramco. Whether you or your team's game is on the field, screen, racetrack, court, or the ice, Gramco is for the game. Grown by farmers who spent years developing premium hemp genetics, Gramco provides customers with consistent quality Delta-8 THC products ready for any occasion. Gramco currently offers numerous Delta-8 products, including vape cartridges, disposable vapes, pre-rolls, gummies, wake and bake coffee, and more. Gramco offers an enjoyable, legal high delivered discreetly and directly to you. Gramco is also available at many American retailers as well. You can get the best Delta-8 cannabis products on the market shipped quickly and discreetly from Gramco. And if you visit www.thegramco.com, use promo code ICEGUYS, you will get 20% off of every order, and any order that's on the site over $50 will be shipped free with standard shipping. So live elevated with Gramco and check out their wonderful Delta-8 products today.
All right, the two best words in sports, Game 7. Here we go tonight, the final game of the second round. It is the Seattle Kraken and the Dallas Stars. We've got, in this one, Dallas minus 200 home favorites here in Game 7. And how about this total? Now, there are a couple 5.5s. I do want to point that out, but it's more 6s than not at the majority of sports books. For the first time in this series, we have seen pretty much an adjustment across the board. There are 6s at, PointsBet, BetRivers, BetMGM, DraftKings, Bet365, all have 6. But FanDuel, Pinnacle, Proline Plus, BetVictor, Betway, there are still some books that have 5.5. So very important. If you like the under, find a 6. If you like the over, find a 5.5. You should be able to do that here as far as Game 7 is concerned. So we'll start with the side. Dallas, obviously, we saw what happened in Game 6, and Peter DeBoer said it in his interview during the game with Leah Hextall. Like, we're not playing Dallas Stars hockey. We're not playing good at all. What were the shots? 15-2 at one point in the first period for the Seattle Kraken. I think it was just a simple case of, Seattle played with extreme urgency, desperation. They know they don't have another game, if they lose Saturday night. And Dallas kind of played like, hey, we've got Game 7 at home, in our back pocket, and that's definitely the way that game started Saturday night. And Dallas tried to get back into it, but Seattle was the better team, ready from the start, capitalized on their chances. Not the best game from Jake Ottinger, but they didn't give him a ton of help either. Defensively, Dallas was atrocious, I thought, especially in the first half of that game. The breakdowns. How about letting, right down Broadway was the quote from Wischusen on the third goal for Seattle, and it was right down Broadway. No resistance to Bjorkstrand, right through the slot, right through the middle of the ice in your own zone. And then he makes that beautiful feed to Tolvanen for the 3-1 goal on Saturday. Just horrendous defensive coverage, non-existent from the Dallas Stars at times on Saturday night. Just awful game from them. And they know it, and Peter DeBoer knows it. But they have been the ultimate resilient team, the bounce-back team, the team that after a bad game, they show up the next time and get the job done. And nobody resembles that more than Jake Ottinger. Entering tonight, Jake Ottinger off a loss this season, 22-4. How about that for a record? 22-4 off a loss this year for Jake Ottinger. And I think the record might even be better than that in the games he's been pulled, where I don't know if he's lost, honestly, this year after he's been pulled. Not only a loss, but after he's been pulled in the previous game as well. And obviously that's what happened in Game 6 on Saturday night with Scott Wedgwood finishing that game in net for the Dallas Stars. But again, Seattle's depth shone through again. Yanni Gourde, a big goal to get them going early. You saw the contributions from Eberle getting the big power play goal. Bjorkstrand getting involved. Tolvanen scoring a big goal. It's once again every line becoming a factor for the Seattle Kraken, and that's been their modus operandi here throughout the Stanley Cup playoffs. No question about that. And the blue line has been good enough, and I think they've gotten better performances from some of their blue liners than maybe they got in the regular season. Like Adam Larson has totally elevated his game. Like he is playing great right now for Seattle on the back end. Jamie Oleksiak turned into a real good shutdown defenseman for them here in these playoffs. So, this Seattle team just will not go away. And they're going to be able to draw upon the experience of going on the road in the first round and winning a Game 7 on the road against the Colorado Avalanche. So this is definitely a Seattle team that's going to come in here believing and thinking and playing like they can win this game. Will they be able to is the question. Dallas will be better. There's no doubt about that. On home ice, they've always been very good off a bad game, and I would expect nothing less here tonight. And I certainly expect Dallas to be ready from the get-go here in Game 7 here tonight in this matchup. So I'm actually going to go a different approach with this game tonight, and maybe it's partially because of what I saw last night in Game 6 between Vegas and Edmonton that I'm going to bet this game from a side perspective, at least in this fashion. But I'm going to go this route. I'm going to take Dallas in the first period, -0.5 plus 140. Okay, first period puck line on the Dallas Stars. I'm going to come back and also take Seattle full game money line here in this game at the price here. Plus 180 at Bet365 looks to be the best price out there. The reason I'm doing that is because I think Dallas is going to win the first period. I really think they're going to come out flying, have a great start. I remember there was a game earlier in this series at home. They lost the previous game, and they came back and they jumped on Seattle in the opening period. I think you'll see that tonight. But one thing about Seattle is you can never count them out, and they've shown an ability to keep fighting when they fall down. They have the chance to do that tonight. It's not going to be easy if they do trail after the first period, especially if Ottinger's bounce back, Ottinger type of play and performance shows up once again tonight here in Game 7. But this is also semi-bankroll protection for me with deciding I'm going to take Seattle as well, full game money line, because I've got a lot of Dallas futures invested right now, and I don't want it to go all for naught. The one mistake I made is I didn't, take something on Vegas here once I saw Edmonton could lose this series. And I'm finally ready to say that going into tonight, Dallas could lose this series. This Seattle team is just persistent. They are fucking tough as nails mentally. They've shown that multiple times. They don't go away. They've got 4 lines. They've gotten themselves right back in this series after a disheartening Game 5. To play the way they did in Game 6 was incredible. To me, I think, and to me, there's more than enough because I took Dallas futures in the All-Star break, a little bit more when the playoffs started. This is protection right now, a little bit at this point, but taking Seattle here in this game tonight. So that's why I'm on the Seattle full game money line, but I'm also on Dallas first period puck line. And I also think right now, if you're going to bet Dallas, it's the best value. You can take them in regulation and lay a price, but I don't love it. You can take them -1, on the full game puck line, which I've done, in previous games this series, but don't love it. I think the best value is that plus 140 on the Dallas Stars in the first period. So that's why I'm on that, just like with Edmonton last night in Game 6. And thankfully, I stopped with Edmonton at the first period, looking in their direction last night in Game 6. So that's the way I'm approaching it from a side perspective. I'm going to seek out the pinnacles of the world, as far as sports books are concerned here, and anyone that's got a 5.5, Pinnacle, FanDuel. Pinnacle's got 5.5 -115, believe it or not, with this total. It's the best I've found anywhere. I'm back on the over. I know Game 7s in the NHL trend under, heavily to the under. I get that, just like they do in the NBA. If you want to take an under, I can't fault you for it. Based on it's Game 7, you'd expect it to be a little tighter If there's one game that's going to be tighter defensively, tighter checking, better defensive focus, it's this game. Game 7, all the marbles. But what have we seen? We've seen 6 overs in this series. We saw each regular season game go over. I've been on pretty much all of them. I'm on it again. And if it loses, so be it. We've had 6 winners on overs in this series. I'm not going to basically crawl into the fetal position and suck my thumb if I finally lose an over in this series tonight. So that's not going to happen. So I'm back on the over, 5.5, even though I understand game 7s in this sport, NBA as well, do trend more often to the under. I think it's in the 54% range the last 10 years, game 7 unders in the Stanley Cup playoffs. That being said, for me, back to the over, which is cashed in every game in this series. Alex, game 7, all the marbles, Seattle, Dallas, winner takes on Vegas.
Yeah, you don't have to tell me about a game 7 NBA under because I got lucky and hit a huge parlay thanks to going just under 200. So, yeah, so, game 7s are usually tight. And I think we're going to see a back and forth battle, but I don't expect tightness in this game 7. Like I said, we haven't seen it all in the series so far. Why would we expect to see a kind of lower scoring, lower pace kind of a game? That being said, I'm still not going to be on the total. I haven't been on the total at any point in the series as far as full game goes. So that's a good chance it's probably going to go over once again. The thing that I'm looking at here, and you touched on it, like I said, if you have a ton of Dallas in play, which we both do. Okay, I have 3 Dallas players for the Conn Smythe. I have Dallas to win the West. I have a pair of, at this point, I have Carolina, Dallas exact price or exact matchup in the Cup final. I got a lot on Dallas right now, so you have to grab some Seattle and put it in pocket, even if it's not a full-on hedge. But you have to have some Seattle in pocket at this price at plus 170. I do have that, as well as Dallas to score first. I got that at even money at BetMGM. I also like the first period puck line, laying the half a goal at plus 140. And if you shop around at Bet Online, which usually their alternate totals are kind of wonky, they do have 5.5. So don't buy into that 6. They have a 5.5. To scroll down into the actual game menu, you'll see the alternate total of 5.5. You're laying over the $1.25 for the over there. So definitely wanted to make that a note. But this is going to be a fun game, just like we've seen back and forth throughout the series. I feel like Dallas jumps out early, but I could see where Seattle can kind of keep that pace, maybe even tie this game up early in the contest. Someone mentioned about looking for the live over that in the chat. That's also a great way to look at this. I'll probably end up having some 3.5 or 4.5s if they pop up on the over in game. But as far as 5.5, 6, I'm just going to stay away from that. But I think we're going to see a back and forth battle. And obviously my gut is, and this is the thing I said at the beginning of the season, the reason why I like Dallas, right? When you get into the situation of one game, name a goaltender you'd want to trust. And the only goaltender that I want to trust that's still left in the playoffs in one game is Jake Ottinger. So I think Dallas can take care of business at home. It's not going to be an easy road. This hasn't been an easy series, but I think Dallas finds a way. They have the grit. They have the toughness. They have the mental fortitude and the killer instinct to put this team away, and I think they do it. So I think we're going to be just fine with Dallas and all of our futures. I think they still stay alive, but it makes sense to take a little bit and hedge and make sure it's not completely assed out. Have something in that back pocket with Seattle.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at I really made a point of it, and NHL.com did a nice job of documenting as well. How do players perform specifically in Game 7s? Players, because you look, the Game 7's a different animal. It's life on the line. It's season on the line. You have to elevate, and you want to be backing from a player prop standpoint as I pivot now to player props for tonight. Guys that are going to show up in a Game 7. And who's going to, I trust more than anybody, especially on the Dallas Stars side, to show up in Game 7. He is the new Mr. Game 7. He is the new Mr. Clutch in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Joe Pavelski. That's who is 8 goals in this series now for the Dallas Stars in 6 games. Just an exceptional, amazing performance by Joe Pavelski in this series. Joe Pavelski has been in 9 Game 7s in his career. 9. Many of them, of course, with the San Jose Sharks. He has 7 points in those 9 Game 7s. So there you go. And that's pretty impressive. 9 Game 7s, 7 points, because it's usually harder to score, in a Game 7. So the fact that he has 7 points in 9 Game 7s in his career tells you that Joe Pavelski goal props and point props, you start there with your player prop looks tonight in this game, as far as I'm concerned. Not only the Game 7 track record of production, from Joe Pavelski, but also what he's done in this series. He's in incredibly red-hot form right now for the Dallas Stars. So there's no doubt player props start and end with him as far as I'm concerned tonight, Joe Pavelski. Jaden Schwartz has a very good Game 7 track record for the Seattle Kraken. A lot of them with St. Louis, of course, in those years with the Blues prior to joining the Seattle Kraken. He's only plus 112 to get a point tonight for the Seattle Kraken, plus 300 to get a goal. So Jaden Schwartz is someone to look out for, and he's had a pretty solid series in playoffs overall. 5-0, by the way, is his win-loss record in Game 7s, Jaden Schwartz as well. So he hasn't lost a Game 7. So that's a little boon in the side of Seattle going into this. But there, the great thing about these stats and these trends is there's things that point to both teams, in that department. I mentioned Jaden Schwartz 5-0 in Game 7s. He plays for Seattle. Seattle's 2-0 in elimination games this year. But the counter argument to that is Jake Ottinger's 22-4 off a loss, and that's the situation tonight. And Peter DeBoer, head coach of the Dallas Stars, who's not been my favorite coach. I've made that pretty clear over the last several years. But, he's had a nice season with this group. Peter DeBoer is a Game 7 undefeated coach, 6-0. Peter DeBoer in Game 7s as a head coach. San Jose, Vegas, obviously New Jersey. I think there was a New Jersey Game 7 potentially in that. Yeah, the Rangers. Rangers in New Jersey. Remember, Henrique, it's over. Doc Emmerich with that great call in overtime that year. Peter DeBoer coached that New Jersey team that won Game 7 in the Eastern Conference Final. So, yeah, Peter DeBoer 6-0. Undefeated in Game 7s as a head coach.
He's not Bruce Boudreau.
Yeah, not Bruce Boudreau. No. Peter DeBoer, New Jersey, San Jose, and Vegas, and of course now Dallas. Perfect in Game 7. So just an interesting stat. I mean, that's not, you don't unload on Dallas just because of that, but it's just a nice little factoid to mention, in a game like this, that Peter DeBoer does have a very good track record here, undefeated track record in Game 7s.
He's not Bruce Boudreau or Glenn Rivers with that kind of a mark.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Glenn Rivers. Yeah, they're taking notes right now. Well, maybe we should see how the way this Peter DeBoer guy coaches in a big game. We could learn a thing or two if you're Boudreau, and certainly if you're Doc Rivers, who spit the bit. Not a surprise to me, by the way, yesterday in Game 7 against the Boston Celtics. But Jimmy, what do you think here? Game 7, Seattle, Dallas. You're muted.
I said yes, and go Celtics, by the way. And, with this Game 7, I think it's going to be another classic. I really do. I'm feeling like a 3-2 game. I'm also loving the draw. Bring me to overtime here. Maybe even multiple. Maybe even multiple. Get set for a late night, boys. That's what I'm feeling.
But will it interfere with the pickleball?
Yeah. I move this game to ESPN too.
So, find the radio feed just in case. But yeah, I feel like this is going to be a late one, and I think it's going to be a really classic Game 7. And I'm just going to go against what my brain says because it hasn't been right too much in these Stanley Cup playoffs. So I'm taking Seattle as well. Give me Seattle on the money line and the draw and the under 6 in this game.
All right, Seattle plus 170 under the total for the first time in this series. Jimmy says we will see an under. First time all season because the regular season games went over the total too with Seattle and Dallas. So I'm fascinated to see it. It's the last game this season for Bob Wischusen, by the way, and that crew. They're done after tonight, but what a way for their season to end. Calling a Game 7 here with Kraken and Stars for Bob Wischusen, Brian Boucher, and Leah Hextall. That trio tonight for ESPN because McDonough, Ferraro, and Kaplan, of course, get the conference final in the next round. But we don't know who's getting which conference final, by the way. Apparently, and that's another thing, too. Who's given NHL more? Yeah, they haven't decided yet because ESPN apparently gets first choice for the conference finals. They get to pick which series they want, even though TNT is the only network that's given them the respect.
That's crazy.
But we'll give ESPN the first choice.
And the natural situation would be for TNT to get the Eastern Conference Final because they're based in Atlanta. So all they got to do is go to Raleigh or go to Sunrise. But who knows that because that makes
watch
sense.
ESPN pick Carolina.
Because it makes sense, it won't happen.
Yeah, that's right.
That's how the league works.
Yeah, and and that's another thing too. Like they'll send the TNT crew on the road for the conference finals too. Just like they did last year. Like they give it a big feel to it. A pregame, a postgame, a great discussion. Great. They let everybody just be themselves. It's just, to me, TNT's doing it right, and it couldn't be much worse with ESPN. Other than the fact I like a couple of their play-by-play guys and a couple of their analysts that I think are good, but the way it's run behind the scenes with ESPN and their NHL coverage is just awful, compared obviously to a TNT, as we've documented throughout the last hour. So, all right, there you go. As far as shots on goal props, it almost hit last night. And it did with Toronto in Game 5. It almost did with Edmonton last night. I think we were one Leon Draisaitl shot short of hitting a plus 850 same game parlay on the main players of the Edmonton Oilers over their shots on goal last night. I think we were one shot short on Draisaitl. Otherwise, it would have cashed. McDavid went over. Hyman went way over his shots on goal prop. And I believe who else was on that? It was McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, and there was one more on that I had. I'm trying to think now who it was last night, but there was someone else, and they went over there. Oh, Kane went over as well. But yeah, the only one that stayed under was Draisaitl, and otherwise that would have cashed. But tonight I might look at a small sprinkle on that, especially with Dallas. I think Dallas is going to be on the front foot, probably carry the play a lot more. So to me, if I were to put something like that together tonight, Dallas, I'd really focus mostly on Jamie Benn, Tyler Seguin, Joe Pavelski for sure, and probably Roope Hintz. Those four forwards, Benn, Seguin, Pavelski, and Hintz. I would keep Robertson out of it. Robertson has not been consistently going over his shots on goal prop. He's been missing the net a ton. That's not good for betting over shots on goal. So I think if you're putting together a SGP with Dallas Stars players, a nice little over shots on goal same game parlay, I think you got to keep Robertson out of it. You got to look more at Hintz, Pavelski, Benn, and Seguin. That four right now for the Dallas Stars. On the Seattle side, I'd probably go McCann. Has to be there. McCann's a high volume shooter. No question about that. Schwartz might be where Eberle for sure. Schwartz, Eberle, McCann. A fourth. I'm trying to think who it would be for Seattle. Maybe Beniers potentially. Because I think he's been trying to get involved a little bit more often. And of course, he scored the other night. So, consider doing that in a game like this. It's a standalone game. It's the only game on the board. Nice little small same game parlay, and target the players for over shots on goal that you think are obviously going to have to elevate and make an impact. So that's definitely a suggestion I would make tonight as well.
One more thing I would probably suggest, and if you're already heavy in the Dallas portfolio, to use the line from the remake of The Gambler, $260,000, what's a car? This is one thing I'm going to add to my portfolio with Dallas. I'm going to take a shot with Joe Pavelski right now, 22-1 to win the Conn Smythe. He has a big game tonight, and like I said, to add on to that Game 7 legacy, and with the injury that he already had coming back from that, he might leapfrog over. Jason Robertson, I could pretty much throw that one in the trash. Roope Hintz is still right there neck and neck, and then there's Ottinger. So now I'm basically getting rid of JR, and I'm adding Pavelski in with Hintz and Ottinger as a three-horse kind of thing moving forward with Dallas for Conn Smythe on. So that's something you might want to look into, because if you were following me all the way through and you have Robertson, that thing's pretty much done. So you might as well just go pick up a Pavelski at 20-1. I'm seeing 22-1 at Offshore, but 20-1 at FanDuel and MGM.
Yeah, I agree. And bet it now. If you think Dallas is going to win tonight, and you've got a guy with a track record of showing up in a Game 7 and playing well, 7 points in 9 Game 7s in the career of Joe Pavelski, bet it. If you think Dallas is going to win tonight, because that not only are they going to, if he has a big night, the price is going to drop. They move on to the Western Conference Finals, the price is also going to drop because of that. You're not going to get probably anything close to 22-1 after tonight if Dallas ends up victorious, and especially if Pavelski has a huge hand in it and a huge part in it as well. So definitely, I think that's certainly a nice price, 22-1. If Dallas can win Game 7 tonight and advance to that Western Conference Final against the Vegas Golden Knights. All right, great stuff, great show. We went a little longer today, even though with just the one game, because we're not on tomorrow. It's going to be a day off. There's no games, so we decided no Ice Guys show tomorrow. We will be back on Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. Chad Naring will be back on the show once again. We'll break it down. Alex will be off on Wednesday and probably right till Saturday, but he'll be back with us on Saturday this weekend. We've got guests, though, on Wednesday and Thursday. Jimmy and Nate might be with us, our usual Friday guests, later this week as well. So that's basically the plan moving forward. And the betcast to be determined. We don't know yet, but we will definitely let you know as soon as we schedule the next Ice Guys betcast for the conference finals. And we will try to do 2 betcasts per week the rest of the season now that we're into the conference finals, since now we don't have the 6-hour marathon betcasts anymore. We just have the one game, so it's like 2.5, 3 hours. We can do 2 a week now because of that. So looking forward to that. We'll schedule that and confirm that later in the week. Make sure you're checking out patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 a month. Goalie charts, totals charts, power ratings, the daily Ice Guys Show betting card posted there. We've got bonus video content that I uploaded a few days ago. Make sure you check that out, and plenty more to come as well. Patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 a month.
Yeah, and there's a lot more coming with that Patreon page this summer. Yep. So don't think because the games are winding down, we're getting down to 1 game a day, that we're going to be tailing off. No, we got a lot coming this summer. So definitely
surprise guests too coming up that
absolutely.
You'll enjoy.
So looking forward to what's coming this summer over at the Ice Guys Patreon. But also check out the Ice Guys store. iceguys.myspreadshop.com. We've got hats, we got t-shirts, we've got everything you need. Got discount coming this weekend too, so we might want to check that out as well. So shop now, look around, and then buy it later when it goes on discount this weekend. iceguys.myspreadshop.com.
Yeah, absolutely. Someone in the chat, I want to mention the comment. I'm scared shitless that the Kraken will win. Well, guess what? I know Dallas will give it a hell of an effort. They always do, especially after a bad game. But Seattle ain't going to give an inch. That much I know about Seattle, too, with the way they have consistently responded and had their, again, just 4 lines coming at you in waves. That's what makes this game fascinating, because I could see it playing out in so many different ways here tonight. And that's why we watch. We tune in to see how it goes. And we're going to find out in about 5 hours from now.
Do what I did. Chill a bottle of champagne in case Dallas wins, and chill a bottle of vodka if they lose.
There you go. There you go. That's the plan. So there you go. Alex's drinking strategy here, or plans for the night on display right there, based on how this Game 7 transpires tonight. All right, great stuff. We'll be back with best bets to wrap up the show right after we hear from Manscaped. Support for the Ice Guys is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped's Performance Package, the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 7 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you, 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the promo code ICEGUYS. That's promo code ICEGUYS at manscaped.com. If my math is correct, it's about 14 million balls that you can preserve. The Performance Package 4.0 is the complete accessory package to take care of everything that is required. You've got, of course, the Lawnmower 4.0. Takes care of your facial hair and among other things. You've got, of course, the Weed Whacker. I'm approaching 40. Nose hair has become a major issue. It pisses the hell out of me. I need to take care of that shit, and the Weed Whacker can help you do that. Both of these products, waterproof and a 4000K LED spotlight for a more precise shave. And you'll also be able to take care of those delicate areas with the ball toner, with the ball deodorant, keep you smelling good, looking good, and feeling good down in the nether regions. This complete Performance Package 4.0 will take care of everything for you, for all you guys out there, and it's courtesy of our good friends at manscaped.com. So get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code ICEGUYS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. And use promo code ICEGUYS. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. All right, it is time for best bets here for Game 7, Seattle, Dallas. Alex, we'll start with you. Best bet.
Yeah, we're going to go with that Dallas Stars to score first. Even money at BetMGM. Like I said, I think that the crowd's going to be rocking and rolling early. I think Dallas can get on the board, and that's going to be crucial for them, right? That was Seattle's calling card in the first round against Colorado, get on the board early, but Dallas has been able to kind of keep that pace and energy early. And if they can do that at home in Game 7, get things rocking their way, they'll be in good spirits. So play that Pantera early. Give me Dallas Stars score first at even money, plus 100. It's my best bet.
There you go. Dallas getting the first goal, even money plus 100. Best bet for Alex B. Smith. Jimmy Murphy, good to have you with us. What do you like for best bet tonight?
I'm going to go right to overtime there, boys. Give me the draw as my best bet.
There you go. Seattle, Dallas, draw. A Game 7 overtime. Boy, it's been a while since we've had a Game 7 overtime in particular. Man, would that be something else to see that here tonight. But Jimmy going to take a shot with the draw. You can get that. FanDuel's got a plus 370 on the draw tonight. So draw plus 370 for Jimmy with his best bet. My best bet is going to be, look, how can I deviate? I know Game 7s can go under the total. I get it. But, geez, we've been just over in this series. Multiple times it's been my best bet for this show. How can we not try to cap this series off with one more over ticket cashed? So that's the way I'm going. Over 5.5, minus 115 here for Game 7 with Dallas hosting Seattle for my best bet on this Monday Game 7 night with the Kraken and the Stars. As far as the good question, Ice Guys shows after the hockey season. We will not have daily live shows after the season. We need an off season too, and we will have it. But we will have our annual free agency recap show. We do it every single year in early to mid-July, right after free agency. We'll do that again and recap all the big moves, all the big signings in free agency. And we're also going to do a player series of interviews exclusively on Patreon throughout the summer. We've got some good names and some good guests that are either current or former players joining us. So we're looking forward to that. We're going to roll them out, gradually. We'll have, one every couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks throughout the summer, just to give you a little Ice Guys content, in those dog days of summer, July and August in particular, with no NHL hockey ongoing. So that's the plan. And we're looking forward to giving you guys that bonus content for our Patreon members throughout the course of the summer. The free agency show, of course, will be live and it'll be free to everyone, of course, right here on the YouTube channel. But we will have those bonus shows involving these the player series, if you will, on Patreon throughout the summer months.
And a couple of things that have been on Patreon for a while, we will put over to the main channel so you guys can watch that if you haven't subscribed, which I don't know why you wouldn't have been subscribed already, but in case you haven't caught it or you haven't watched it back in a while, we will have that on the main channel during the summer, and then to clear room and have space for all the new stuff that we'll be doing throughout the summer. Yeah.
And by the way, the player series interviews, they won't necessarily be betting specific. These are just going to be, hockey in general, type of discussion. So we're looking forward to that for sure. And July and August, that will be a part of the package, if you will, on Patreon. So great stuff. Jimmy, before we sign off, just get some final words from you. Are you going to come back, join us on Friday?
Yeah, for sure, guys. I'll be around. Let me know.
All right, good stuff. Jimmy will be back on Friday with us here on the show. Good stuff. All right, the Ice Guys is live, of course, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday only now on weekends at noon Eastern. And if you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms: Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Alex B. Smith and Jimmy Murphy, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Monday night. Enjoy Game 7, Seattle, Dallas. No show tomorrow, but we will be back on Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, and we will talk conference finals, series, and Game 1 previews coming up on Wednesday for the next edition of the Ice Guys, presented by National Hockey Now.